What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary, and it's very nice to be back in the studio with all of you. Can't believe a week has gone by already. It was a pretty wild one, but a good one nonetheless. And I hope the week was good to all of you as well. If you celebrated Thanksgiving, hope that day was full of excellent people and excellent food. But it's time to get back down to business now. Let's look at some new music, starting with Neil Young and Crazy Horse and this new album, World Record. They put that out on November 18th. This is their follow-up to 2022's Toast, and I believe this is going to be album number, it's like 42 for Neil. There was debate the last time I did a review. There will probably be some debate about that number as well as what collaboration this is with Crazy Horse. I've seen 13, 14, 15. My opinion is that it doesn't matter. What matters is that Neil Young, at this stage in his life and in his career, has just found this amazing creative groove with Crazy Horse, for better or for worse. Now, there's so many incarnations of Neil that I love. I love his solo work. I love Buffalo Springfield, but when he's teaming up with Crazy Horse, the grunge element, the garage rock, the rawness and the elements of improvisation that exist with the way that they choose to write and record music, it's just so much fun to listen to. And I feel like World Record is really capturing that essence, capturing that spirit of when Neil is teaming up with these guys and what it feels like to be in the room to create with them. They brought aboard Rick Rubin to help out with this project. I'm not sure how much of an impact he had overall in the thing. I mean, but he's a great dude to have in the room nonetheless, just to, feel out a few things if that's where you need it. But he talks about how it was just so amazing to watch these guys just click the tape and just go to work, and whatever came out. And I respect that about Neil. Creatively, it's one of the things that I admire the most about his music. I think it's A Man Needs a Maid that he starts off on the piano, but like you can hear the crackling of a fire in the background of that song before all that big orchestration comes in. And that's funny too, people's feelings on that. I know a lot of critics criticized him for that, but Bob Dylan said he liked the orchestral arrangement. And I'm with Neil Young on that. If Bob Dylan says he likes it, I don't really give a shit about what anybody else says. But I like the energy of this project, and I like that it just feels like an organic jam session, and the spirit that they were able to capture. It's fun, it's infectious, and I really think it's pouring off of this record. This isn't a perfect album, and I think that there's going to be some people that might criticize this record the way that Toast was criticized. But again, I think that collection of songs came together in a somewhat sloppy manner. It felt somewhat desultory versus, there might be, a slight lack of continuity in this collection of songs. But again, it's that live energy. It's that feeling of being in the room with them while they're throwing down these jams. And it almost kind of makes it feel like a live set in that regard too. I'm really a big fan of the energy, and for all of its imperfections, I think that this project nears perfection for that reason. It's one of the things that, again, I love that about Neil Young, going with that rawness. What I also like about this record is we all know that Neil is an avid environmentalist and has been for decades, like 50 years at least. The earth has always been important to him. It's always been a big part of his music. And as someone who spends a lot of time outside, I mean, I work for an outdoor vendor. The earth is important to me, and I'm, respecting nature, treating it with respect. And it's unfortunate going out right now. And I mean, I can go on any random hike and, you find maybe a parking lot or an area where a lot of people are more likely to gather or end up. And, the amount of trash that you still see, it's just unfortunate that people, they don't respect the world, and they don't respect the other people that want to enjoy that space as well. I find those people extremely frustrating. And in the past, Neil has gotten somewhat pessimistic, somewhat crotchety. And while I don't necessarily like that approach, I don't blame him for it. I understand why he's frustrated. I understand why he's annoyed with these individuals that don't share that respect. If you don't share that respect, don't go hiking. Seriously, stay in your house, stay inside. Like, if you don't want to pack out what you pack in, you don't belong out there. And I have no problem saying that. I will stand by that and die on that molehill. Don't go out into nature if you don't want to respect it. With that said, I will get off my soapbox there. And Neil it's a respect for the pastoral on this record. There is no crotchety approach. There is no anger. There's a couple moments where I feel like he's pushing that sense of urgency as far as, we need to do something now before it gets too bad. And so the energy of this record, the celebration of this finite resource that all of us have, and it's a celebration of the ability that all of us have to come together and to help fix that, because we still can. And I love that. I love that message. It's a special time in the world right now. A big part of the reason I was busy was the World Cup, opening the bar in the morning. It's another fine example of watching the way the world comes together. And it's for just a game, you know, but it's still, it's amazing the energy when you walk into a room where any match is on, and the people that have gathered there to celebrate and to watch and to, you know, and to cheer for their country. It's an amazing thing. And this record, the World Cup, these things that unify us, whether or not you're into them or not, I think it's important to recognize what they bring to the table. And, even if it's not your cup of tea, to still acknowledge that it provides such an enriching experience for so many other people. And if something's doing that, I'm never going to hate on it. Unless it's Nickelback. We'll get there. We'll get there on Tuesday. But I loved this collection of music. I've been really excited to talk about it for the last few days. It kicks off with Love Earth. Your opening song has got this classic Americana feel, and I really dig this too. Talking about that heavy, like grungy, big chunky guitars with Crazy Horse, but they've done some fabulous, delicate work together over the years, and I love the way that Love Earth comes out with this upbeat, positive message, and again, that Americana feel balanced with some classic pop, a little bit of country. The piano, big driving factor on this album as well. I love the presence of the instrument on this song, a little bit of slide guitar. It's just an easygoing opener that works really well. Overhead is your second song, more of that just solid piano to kick this thing off. Bit of a barroom feel on this track as well. It's going to pick up the tempo a little bit and develops into more of like a rock and roll kind of blues feel. Really fun song. I Walk With You, Earth Ringtone, is your third track. Here come the heavy guitars, and I was waiting for this moment and really enjoyed this song for that reason. I dig that it's a mellow track though. You get lots of big heavy guitars, but a slow tempo, just kind of a mellow arrangement, and it almost makes this track feel ballad-like. It's really a fun song. This Old Planet, Changing Days, is your fourth song. Piano and accordion, and I love the presence of the accordion on this record. It's so universal, and I've been trying to put my thumb on what as far as the playing style on that instrument, like where they're drawing from, and it's everything. And you go and you can read about the history of the accordion, and for all its use in contemporary music in the last 4 or 5 decades, that instrument, it's amazing. You can go to just about any country around the world, and the accordion is a big part of a folk tradition in the music there. And I find that so fascinating that this one instrument that it pretty much makes the same sound for everybody, but all these different people over time have been able to draw out different sounds and celebrate the traditions of their culture with this instrument. And so I love the presence of it on this album. It feels so universal. It feels like it's drawing on anybody who's ever played that instrument and using that for inspiration. So I'm just loving it for that reason. This Old Planet 2 is one of those songs where Neil is definitely bringing a little more of that urgency. This is a song where the message isn't quite as light, but again, it's not overbearing. It's not obnoxious. It doesn't feel like he's getting in your face and preaching to you, which I really appreciate that. I think that it's a problem right now. And I think that if you're wanting to extend the olive branch to people, and if you're wanting to try to find common ground, yelling and shouting is not the way to do it. And so, I admire Neil for the approach on this record. I think in its beauty, people will, just automatically open up and start to feel that inspiration that just comes from being outside, that comes from, taking a hike and taking a deep breath of fresh air, I should say. The World is in Trouble Now, your fifth song, getting a little more of that urgency there. Hits with some harmonica, like the rock and roll. Vocal has a really nice flow to it. I think that Neil really killed it there. And it's this particular song. I was listening to it, and it reminds me of a band I really like, the Black Angels, and a song Bloodhounds on My Trail. It's got this kind of just like driving bluesy rock feel that I enjoyed. Break the Chain, your sixth song, probably my favorite. I like the rock and roll feel feel. I like the way the drums dominate the intro, guitars build in, lots of reverb, really groovy bass lick on this track. It's just absolute money. I really enjoyed this song. The Long Day Before is going to be back to that mellow folk feel. Loving the accordion on this track. It's probably my favorite example of this instrument just being used really well on this record. Walking on the Road is your eighth song. It's Walking on the Road to the Future. Minimal arrangement. This is an interesting track. You get the presence of the accordion acts almost kind of like a wash. It's just like this texture in the background. Bare acoustic riff. Love the harmonica on this song. Nice change of pace too. I think the feel of the song is really cool and it added some interesting variety. The Wonder Won't Wait is your ninth song. Picks that energy back up. It's got a bit of a polka kind of folk feel. Working with that accordion again. Electric guitar, and I love this element on this song, and the stomping percussion that builds in is excellent. Your penultimate track, it's basically your final song, Chevrolet. This is the type of thing that you always just want from Neil and Crazy Horse. A big old 15-minute jam, roughly. It's a big song, but I really like the melody. I like the lick. Just big chunky guitars, and I think this song is a really fine example of something that all of us need to do as far as, picking a concession, being selfless in that regard. And in this particular example, Neil talks about, his he's a gearhead. He was anyway. His love for the Chevrolet, the classic car, the pickup truck, and, getting to where we're at now and seeing how many of those are out there, the detriment, that, all those emissions have on the world. And it's, I like the way he approaches that song. It's, it's something that he loves, but it's also something that he's coming to terms with giving up because he identifies that it is having a negative impact. Overall, its presence is detrimental. And I think that, I just think that's so fascinating and so unique. And I think it's something that all of us at one point in time, like we face that reality. We face that task of having to give up or having to sacrifice something, because we know that ultimately things will be better for it. Maybe not necessarily for ourselves, but knowing that things in general. And you talk about the Black Angels, their new record. There's this line in the song El Jardin, and they talk about how you didn't leave a garden for your children to play in. And that's like, every time I hear that line, it shatters me. It gives me chills. It gives me goosebumps. And so we're gonna vinyl please this thing. Been talking a lot. There's a lot to think about here. I really enjoyed this record. I found it to be very thought provoking, and full of beautiful arrangements. That, if you were a little disappointed with Toast, I think that this will be a nice little comeback. And, just no matter what, just working with that energy with Crazy Horse, I think that over the years, it's been one of the best collaborations in rock and roll and in popular music. And I love that they're still going at it and still producing music that's, not only worth listening to, but still has an honest message that's, true to what Neil and to what these guys have done for over half a century now. It's so wild. So vinyl please on this thing. I hope you enjoyed this record. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help Keith, MB, and I blow this project up in 2022. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews, and check in Tuesday night for that Nickelback roast. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to give them some props too. There's a lot of people that like them. There's a reason that they keep making records and they keep selling records. So we'll give them a little love, give them a little hate. It's going to be a good time. So enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.